Hello everyone, today I will be explaining the UEFA competition changes that have been recently announced. These will take place in the 2021-22 season. So we got 3 years to wait. Which is surprising knowing UEFA. They literally said, oh, here's 4 Champions League group stage spots for the big associations. They did it like the next year. Well, it is what it is. First thing I need to do is explain the current European formats, the Champions League and the Europa League. The Champions League has 2 qualifying rounds that are only for champions. First one is the preliminary round, where the bottom 4 associations play in a single elimination tournament on one site to determine who goes into the first qualifying round. And this is where a lot of champions enter. 18 through 51, so that's about, I think that's 30, they say 33. Oh yeah, Liechtenstein. Oh, Liechtenstein doesn't have a team in, because they don't have a league. Okay. Now, here's where it gets interesting. It gets split up into champions and non-champions. The champions path has many more teams than the non-champions path. So, the champions path in the second qualifying round has 20 teams, including 3 who will enter in this round. The non-champions has 6 teams that would enter, runner-ups, 10 to 15. Okay, now those winners go to the third qualifying round. The champions would have 12 teams in the path, and the non-champions will have 8, 5 of which enter in this round. Only 2 champions enter in this round. Then 2 more champions enter in the playoff round, the last round before the group stage. The goal of every team in Europe. So those last 2 champions will enter, and the 4 non-champions, winners from the third qualifying round, will enter. And the winners of those ties go to the group stage, along with the top 10 champions, the top 6 runner-ups, and the top 4 third and fourth place teams, with the Champions League and the Europa League holders. That could mean 18 teams from just 4 countries. So they play in a group stage, and then every team plays every other team twice. And the top 2 teams from each group go to the round of 16. The winners will be drawn against the runners-up, and they will play. Then they do a random draw 2 more times. These are all 2-legged ties. And then you get to the final. The holy grail of club sport. The Champions League final. And the winner of that gets the European Cup, a place in next year's Champions League, a place in the UEFA Super Cup against the Europa League winner, and a place in the Club World Cup against teams from all the other continents. And now the current Europa League. Now the current Europa League, which is probably the biggest competition And now the current Europa League, and you can see why UEFA thinks it's a good idea to split it off. They have this preliminary round, which all the small associations, and I mean the tiny associations, I think it's like the bottom 7 or 8, go into the preliminary round with a couple teams. And then they play to get into what's called the first qualifying round, where they'll be joined by about half the domestic cup winners and about half the runner-ups, with some third place teams, about half third place teams actually included. Pretty much the same for the last 2, with the runner-ups in third place. And those teams will advance to a non-champions path in the Europa League. The champions path will have the teams from the teams losing the Champions League first qualifying round and preliminary round. Then all the non-champions play, and the champions play. Those will be kept separate throughout the tie. And this is where you get the lowest ranked qualifiers, which means some lower ranked domestic cup winners. Medium ranked domestic, really medium ranked, but low ranked in terms of the big boys. A couple of the remaining runner-ups, some third place teams, fourth place teams, fifth place teams, and sixth place teams. All of these can move one spot down. This cup winners will go to the next spot, runner-up third, etc. If the cup winner is qualified for the Champions League or the Europa League through league position. The non-champions path, second qualifying round, and the standard first qualifying round are the two largest rounds in all the European competitions. First qualifying round is larger. Those winners move on to the third qualifying round, where the champions path will have losers from the second qualifying round, and the non-champions will have losers from the non-champion second qualifying round. The non-champions will be joined by some domestic cup winners that do not have, every team that does not have automatic representation in the Europa League group stage has joined by this point. At this point, I should say. So the 13 through 17 domestic cup winners, third place teams for 7 through 12, and the fourth place teams from Association 6. Those winners all play. And now they'll be joined by losers from the third qualifying round for champions in the champions path. Then the 26 winners play in the non-champions path. This will decide 21 spots in the UEFA Europa League group stage. Joined with 12 domestic cup winners, a fourth place team, and 4 fifth place teams. That's 17 and 8 and 13 is 21, so that's 38. You wonder how they get to 48. That's where the Champions League losers come in. From a Champions League playoff round, both the Champions path and the non-Champions path. And the 4 losers of the non-Champions third qualifying round path. Those teams play and are joined by the group stage. Same as the Champions League. Except 24 teams advance out of that. And the third place teams from the Champions League play in the knockout round. That's 32 teams. So 4 two-legged ties. To get to a final, first time runners-up play winners. The Champions League teams are split off. Winners and runners-up, they get drawn. Proxy winners and runners-up, I should say. The top 4 third-place teams are represented as winners in the draw, and the bottom 4 are represented as runner-ups in the draw. And you get to a final. After this will be a neutral site, just like the Champions League. The winner gets a spot in the UEFA Champions League and the UEFA Super Cup. Now we'll talk about the changes. The new Europa League format. This format is a lot different. It takes a lot of the qualifying rounds out of the equation completely. Look at how simple it is. 10 losers from the second qualifying round for champions from the Champions League will be in a champions path. And then the non-champions will be in a path. It's just 6 teams. 3 losers from the Champions League second qualifying round. And 3 teams from 3 third place teams from the association 13 through 15. These are the lowest ranked teams in the Europa League. Now the playoff round. This is not split up into champions and non-champions. These people will be joined by the third qualifying round for champions losers, the 5 winners from the third qualifying round for champions, and then 3 from the non-champions, joined by 6 third place teams. This format will be very interesting. It's really first qualifying round, then playoff round. But They're just using third qualifying round to make it consistent. I don't really like that, but it is what it is. So those teams play and take 10 spots in the new group stage, along with 2 fourth place teams from 5 and 6, 5 fifth place teams from 1 through 5, and 4 sixth place teams from associations 1 through 4. In the Europa League 2 holders, that's a new competition. The cup winners are really the 5th place teams, and 4th they're really the highest ranked. And then the second highest ranked would be the 5th place team in reality, but I don't know why they didn't edit it, but don't shoot the messenger. Well, yeah, I got that. Never mind. Thought there was a missing team, but I'll show you later why the missing team's there. They play in a group stage, 2 ties against each group member, home and away. Top 2 advance, but for the runner-ups and the 3rd place teams in the Champions League group stage, there's a preliminary knockout round. 2 legs, 1 group runner-up versus 1 Champions League dropout to play the group winners. And the group winners will play the preliminary knockout round winners. After this, there will be 2 more 2-legged ties, then a final. Winner will still earn a place in the UEFA Champions League and UEFA Super Cup. Now for what all the talk is about lately. Europa League 2. This will include at least 1 team from every country. It's billed as something for the smaller nations to get better chances, but as I will tell you, that's not really true. It's just more big teams, more trophies. As you see, there's a first qualifying round, which this is basically Europa League, with the very top going into the group stage. Domestic Cup winners, the bottom half, let's just say. Not exactly, but close enough. And runners-up and 3rd place teams. Basically the bottom third of the old Europa League, I should say. And there will be a Champions Path and a non-Champions Path, which will start in the 2nd qualifying round, with the Champions League dropouts, just like the original Europa League. And now you add cup winners, runners-up, 4th place teams, 5th place teams, 6th place teams, even. So basically the very bottom of the Europa League. Big clubs, the bottom of the big clubs. Although really I should really say cup winners should really say 3rd place, then cup win, then 4th place, then 5th place. But it doesn't really say that. Well, and they add winners from the first qualifying round to join them in the non-champions path. So this will have teams from all the way to teams like Burnley, all the way down to teams from San Marino, in Lincoln from Gibraltar, and all them. So that's a big club advantage, so the biggest teams should probably move on. And then losers from the 2nd qualifying round for champions and non-champions will join the separate paths. Champions will have no extra teams joining them, or the non-champions. So the only teams that drop out from the Champions League are losers in the preliminary and first qualifying rounds. And then you add really 3rd place teams? No. Yeah, 3rd place teams from 7 through 12. I know it says 4th place, but they didn't have the cup winners properly. And the 5th place team from Association 6. I believe that is actually correct. So then you add the 7th place qualifying, which is really the 6th place team after the cup winners. And the 6th place team from Association 5, which is the 5th place team after the cup winners. These are the only playoff rounds the top 5 associations play. and they'll be joined by winners. But now, teams will drop down from the Europa League to Europa League 2 for the playoff round, for the third qualifying round for champions and non-champions. Then you go to the group stage, which is 32 teams. You add the 10 losers from the Europa League playoff round, and the 22 winners from the Europa League 2 playoff round. And then you play the same group as the other groups. And the 8 group runner-ups play the third place teams from the Europa League in a preliminary knockout round. Then the winners play the winners of the group winners play the winners of the preliminary knockout round. Sorry about that. Then they play 2 more two-legged ties after that round to get to a final. The winner qualifies for the next season's Europa League. Next up, we'll have some winners and losers. Winners, the big clubs. They can never be in a situation where they have to play more than 1 playoff round to get into a European competition. Previously, there would have been a scenario where they had to play 3, which would be the bottom teams from the big associations that qualify. Other winners, the top 15 nations, which have a competition basically to themselves called Europa League. And all top 15 nations keep their Champions League spots and also still get a spot in Europa League 2. And of course, the winner is UEFA. More tournaments, more games, more money. Losers, the smallest nations, because they can never play against the big boys, ever. Even in the Champions League, they won't get far enough. Nations outside the top 15. Basically, top nations like Scotland, or mostly Scotland's the big one. They're going to need a huge drop in prestige. To keep any prestige, they have to get into the top 15 in the next 3 years. And other losers are clubs that drop from the Europa League, because honestly, they don't really care about anything they're doing in this competition. They hate it, and it doesn't get them into the Champions League, so they'll play their U14s. Maybe U16, but still, they will not risk an injury in this competition. So it'll hurt the overall product. Changes I would have made. No Champions League or Europa League dropouts under any circumstances. Qualifying, group stage, anything. These competitions will be separate. I will also reintroduce a Cup Winners' Cup. for all the cup winners who do not qualify for the Champions League. And if they do, then the runner-ups or semifinals. Most of the time will be champions or runners-up. Like teams like Chelsea and Frankfurt would have been in that Cup Winners' Cup. It would put a lot more prestige on winning the cup. And fix Europa League 2. No clubs from the top 15 nations. The Europa League 2 is meant for the smaller clubs. And League Cups are shit now. So you know what? We need to make any country that has a League Cup, put the winners straight into Europe. Right behind the Cup winners. So their second Europa League qualifier. And the Champions League can stay a group stage. Because teams are like that. And it's about determining the best team. And the other competition should be straight knockout, though. It's a lot less taxing for players. These straight knockouts are all 2 legs except for the final. And all 4 competition winners should get a place in the Champions League group stage. Because that would make the competition more prestigious. Overall, I don't really like these changes. It doesn't really do much for the big nations, but for the small nations, it ruins them. And the medium nations, Scotland especially, they're fucked. So, well, overall, the big clubs benefit, the smallest clubs don't, and Scotland doesn't benefit at all. Under my plan, cup winners would benefit. All teams outside the Champions League would benefit, besides dropouts, of course. And League Cups would benefit. And also drama would benefit, because teams would be more on the same level. Overall, that's my opinion on the changes. Thank you for watching.